Okay, let's see if this works now. I get it, no sound, no sound. Hopefully, I think the mute button may have been hit. I'm gonna wait a second. There's a little bit of a lag. I'm gonna see if you guys can hear me. Awesome. Okay, you can hear me now. Couldn't hear anything I just said, so I'm gonna start over. Thanks for bearing with me. All right, new microphone, trying to get the hang of it. Thank you guys for bearing with me. Glad you can see and hear me now. So we're going to be talking about blogging with Squarespace. What I just said is that it's so fun to see all of you tuning in and hearing where you're tuning in from. We have people join these Elechats from all over the world. And so we have people in Australia and the UK and China and all over the United States and Canada. So it's really fun at the beginning of every chat to see where you're tuning in from. I'm really excited to talk about Squarespace today and blogging with Squarespace in particular. I think it's a topic that isn't really talked about much because WordPress is really prevalent for bloggers. And so I went ahead and dropped a poll or a question in the poll section. And I want to know, do you currently use Squarespace? Yes, no, but you might be considering making the switch, or just no, and you're curious and you're just joining in today's Ellechat, which is fine too. Maybe I'll convince you by the end of it that you should be using Squarespace. And maybe not, and that's all right too. It's different for everybody, different strokes for different folks. I'm also going to try to answer as many questions as possible. We have 20 questions in there right now, which is a crazy number, but really great. I'm going to try to get through as many as possible. I'm going to go in order of votes. So if you see a question on there and you really want it to be answered, be sure to go ahead and vote it up. Like I said, I'm going to go in that order. I have to pare it down to 45 minutes today, but I'm going to make those 45 minutes really beneficial to you. That's my goal. And I'm going to try to leave about 10 minutes for questions at the end. So we'll finish up around 3:45 my time. Who knows your time? It's 3 o'clock, 3:04 right now. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to do a lot of screen sharing today. I'm going to walk through just how to add a blog page, how to add a blog post, and all the different settings in that pop-up window for adding a blog post, how to preview and edit before you publish, and even how to schedule posts. I'm also going to talk about how to add a blog sidebar. Not every template allows you to have a blog sidebar, but I'll show you for those that do. And I'm also going to show you how you can use the summary block, one of my favorite and most helpful blocks out there, how you can use it to create archives, to round up related posts at the end of your blog posts, and also how to feature posts maybe in your blog sidebar. So there's a lot that you can do with it. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen with you. Don't mind the tunnel vision for a quick second. All right. So one tip, whether you're blogging in Squarespace or doing anything else in Squarespace, is to not use Safari. For some reason, Safari will cancel out. So you might spend all this time working on some updates on your site or a blog post, and then all of a sudden it'll shut down, or you'll have to refresh the window and you'll lose everything that you just did. It doesn't automatically save it. So I use Safari most of the time, but I switch over to Chrome just to prevent that from happening. Chrome works a lot better. So if you've seen that problem pop up with you using Squarespace, I highly encourage you to switch over to Chrome. I haven't tried Firefox. That might be a better option as well. So this is what the back end of a Squarespace site looks like. And I love Squarespace because it is so user-friendly. I recommend it to all of my clients as well because I know that they will, every single one, and I've worked with over 30 clients on Squarespace now, every single one isn't overwhelmed by the user interface. They can easily go in and update photos, make changes to their text, add blog posts, and it's just simple, straightforward, and intuitive. Squarespace sites are also visually appealing. They look really nice, not just when you're pulling it up on your laptop, but also from a mobile device, an iPad or a phone. They're also all-inclusive. You can keep everything all in one place. You don't have to pay for hosting somewhere else. You don't have to buy a domain name from somewhere else. You can keep it all within Squarespace. So if you're unfamiliar with it, this is what the backend looks like. You can see the changes as you're making them over here on the right side. And on the left side, we see all the different pages in our navigation. Actually, if I take it back one step further, you can see pages, design, commerce, metrics, etc. But because we're going to be talking about blogging today, I'm going to come into pages. And if you haven't set up a blog on Squarespace already, you would add it just like you would any other page, either in your main navigation, secondary navigation, or unlinked pages. Usually if I'm trying to set up a page for the first time, I won't necessarily do it under the main navigation or even secondary navigation. Not linked means it's a page on your website, but it isn't being linked to within your navigation menus. So if you haven't added a blog to your site yet, but you're considering it, you'll come up here to the plus, and really for any of these menus, you can click on the plus and choose which new page you want to add. And in this case, you would choose a blog. So for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to click on blog. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it demo blog. And it's going to open, and it's just going to be a blank page at the moment. Before we go into adding posts or anything like that, though, you want to make sure that your blog is set up the right way, and you can easily do that by going into settings. So you click this little gear up here, and these are your blog settings. So navigation title, that's what's actually going to show up in the navigation. So yours might just be blog. It could be home if you want your home page to be your blog. This is where you can disable the page if you're working on it and you don't want it to be seen. So maybe you don't leave it as an unlinked page. Maybe you have it in your navigation, but you want to disable it. Squarespace just walks you through all of these different options really easily. Posts per page. If you don't want 20 posts to show up, you may only want 3 to 5 posts to show up so people don't have to scroll forever. You can just grab this little, what's the word? Slider, that's the word, and take it down to 3 posts if you want to, 4 or 5 posts. Just the description is helpful for SEO. If you want to go in and add what your blog is about, it doesn't show up anywhere except for search results, as long as I think that's right. I need to do more research into that, but I've used a description and I haven't seen it pop up anywhere else, or when someone goes to share your blog. But that's that there. The URL slug. This is what is going to be found if people go to use your URL for your blog. So you might not want it to be demo blog. You might just want it to be your URL/blog, and you can change it there. Password. This is where if you didn't want your blog to be public, you could require a password. If you're working on your blog and you want feedback from some people, but you don't want everybody to be able to see it, you can add a password there and give the password out selectively. If you have multiple people posting to your Squarespace blog, you can set this to where you post by an email address. I have never seen the need for that, but that's an option. I'm sure some people have. Then up here on Squarespace pop-ups, there are always more options. Well, usually more options. Media, my theme allows me to add a thumbnail or a banner image. I don't really want to, so I usually leave that blank, but you can. Advanced options. I'm actually going to click out of this pop-up window and show you my actual blog, because I think it would be more helpful to show you how you can manage your tags and your categories. So I'm going to just discard those changes, go back out to my pages. So that's how you add a blog page. I'm going to delete that just so I don't forget later. I'm going to come up to my actual blog and click that little gear and go back to advanced in the pop-up window. And here you can see all of the tags I've ever used and all of the categories I've ever used. And I probably need to go and clean this up a little bit. But say you moved your WordPress blog over to Squarespace, and you've had that WordPress blog for 5 years and your tags and categories have gotten totally out of control. Squarespace makes it really easy for you to click on one of these categories or tags and either rename it or just remove it altogether. So I can click confirm. I haven't used that tag in forever. So it's really easy for you to click on several. Like if I combined two, I can merge them together and give them a new name. So Squarespace makes it incredibly easy to go in and clean up your tags and categories if it's been a while. And in all honesty, it's a little embarrassing how many tags I have in here. I should probably go and clean it up as well. It's been a really long time. Same thing with categories. If I wanted to merge two categories, I can click them, merge them, and rename them. Or I can remove them altogether. So very, very easy. If ever you want to, if you have some code to add into your blog and you need to add it into the page header, this is where you would do it. Right here in the page header code injection. And syndication, this is for your RSS feed. I really, in all honesty, don't know much about it. But if you ever are looking for it, this is where you would find it. So that's the long and short of setting up your blog and changing all of those categories there. And then once you set up your blog, you can start adding posts. All of your previous posts will be found here in this left-hand menu. And you can really easily search. If you have a bunch of drafts, you might want to search through just your drafts. If you have some marked for review, if you have multiple people working on your blog, that review feature is helpful, and I'll show you how to mark that in just a second. Or your scheduled posts, if you have a bunch of scheduled posts for the future. I should probably have a lot more blog posts scheduled and ready to go, but I don't. So here are all of the previous blog posts that have been up on the Ellen Company blog. If you want to start a new blog post, you simply come up here to the plus, click Add Post, and it's really simple and straightforward setting up a blog post in Squarespace. I'm going to name this Sample Post for the sake of the lesson. Squarespace pages are set up just like Squarespace blog posts and vice versa. All of Squarespace is made up of blocks, and they're just units for different things. So here, it's already started us off with a text block. We can simply click and begin typing, and we can run with it. So I'm just going to add some, I'll search for lorem ipsum text really quickly. We'll do bacon text because that's kind of fun. And I'll just grab some so you can see what the text looks like. A lot of times if I'm pasting text in from another site, or I set up all my blog posts in a Google Doc, if I'm pasting text, I want to paste it as plain text. I don't want to paste it, if I just click paste, well, it doesn't make a difference right now, but from some sites, it tends to mess with the formatting of my blog posts. And so usually I'll hold down Shift, Option, Command V, or you can go to Edit, Paste and Match Style. But I do Shift, Option, Command V, and it'll just paste in there. So helpful little tip. That's the text block. It's already ready to go. If you want to add photos or any other different blocks in here, you simply hover over the bottom left corner of where you want to add it. There's a little insert point. Looks like a teardrop. And if you click it, you can see a lot of different options for what you can add. Mainly what you're going to be adding are text blocks and image blocks. But once in a while, you might add a slideshow, or if you're a photographer and you're blogging a wedding, you might use this stack feature. So I'm just going to show you, this is a gallery. You can upload a bunch of images all at once in here, rearrange them if you want to. I'll just grab some so I can show you what this looks like. I'll just grab a few of these. I don't even know which ones I'm grabbing. But I'm opening them here. It might take a second because they're really big files. While I'm doing this, I can come over into Design and I can switch between them all. So if I wanted them to show up as a slideshow or a carousel or a grid, that would work too. For right now, I'm going to leave them stacked. Looks like they uploaded. These are some headshots. This is the first thing I got up. If I want to change the order, I can just really easily, and it'll change the order in the post. I can click apply, and now they stack on top of each other, one after the other. If I want to add some more text, I can click that little insertion point, add text. Again, Shift, Option, Command V, and I'm good to go. And I can continue to build my posts. Say I wanted two images side by side, or what I'll do, I'll add a line here to separate my text. So you have different spacer and line options. And I'd encourage you maybe just one day to go in and mess with all of these different blocks. I also have a post on this. If you go to the Ellen Company website and go into my archives and click on the Squarespace Archives, there's one specifically on all the different blocks and their functions. So if you're new to Squarespace, you might find that helpful. Sometimes if I want to put text, if I want to create 2 columns of text side by side, Squarespace allows you to rearrange things just by dragging and dropping, and it's really simple. So say I wanted this text block right here to go beside this text block right here. I'll click and drag. If I drag here and you see that black bar extends all the way up, that means that the text is going to format on the side of all of this blog post. So if I drop it here, it's going to line it up and push all of this content over to the side. I don't want that. So I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to drop it back down here for the sake of demonstration. This time, I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to pull it over, and you see how that line gets smaller right beside the text? That means it's going to align to just that block and not all of the content in this blog post. And if I drop it, now I have 2 columns of text. So that might be helpful for you. You can also do that with images. So you can pull images side by side. You can pull an image right beside a text block. If you want to change the sizes of these different blocks that are side by side, you simply hover over the space between them, and the icon will change to a line in those 2 arrows. And you can just drag it, and it'll change the size of those blocks. So that's another helpful thing. This isn't just for blog posts either. You can do this on Squarespace pages, so just regular pages. And you can continue to build your blog posts down the page. Then you can come down here and add tags and categories. So a lot of times I have my tags set up already. If I start typing in like April 2016, it'll automatically appear and I can click it. Or if I have a new tag altogether, I was writing it out, I can just click enter and it'll go ahead and add it into my tags for me. So Squarespace makes that really simple. The same goes for categories. It already pulls up all of my categories here, and I can mark it maybe as blogging or design or whatever it might be. So that's really simple. Comments on, you can also disable the comments if you wanted to, just by clicking here. And you can choose the date that you want to disable the comments, but I just have it set for never. You can change comments on or off here. This is also a really helpful feature. Squarespace will automatically save posts as drafts, but if you come in here, unless you click save and publish down here, but if you click where it says draft, you can change it from draft to published. You can schedule the post, or you can mark it as needs review. Remember just a second ago over here, you might be able to still see it. There's that review button, and so that's where the posts that are marked as reviewed would show up. A lot of times for me, my posts usually go live, or what I strive for is 6 a.m. So a lot of times I'll write them ahead of time. I'll click scheduled, and instead of it publishing today at 3:14, I'm going to have it published for Friday at 6 a.m. And it will do it according to your time zone, whatever time zone you're in. And then if I click off of it, now it says it's scheduled to publish tomorrow at 6 a.m. So it doesn't have to publish just as soon as I click publish. And I can click save down here, and it'll save it and it'll automatically publish. If you want to make it look like the post was scheduled or went live in the past. So maybe you're building your blog and you want to look like it's already established when it launches. What you can do is go in. It's kind of lying. It's kind of not. You can click published and you can set the date that it was published on. So you can go back in time. I could go back as far as last July, and I could set it as July 15th that it published at 6 a.m. and that would be fine too. So that is how to schedule a post. And then again, at the top of every Squarespace pop-up, there's usually more options. So you can come into options here. Depending on whether or not your template allows thumbnail images, and that's something that you need to go check on. Squarespace Help has it, and I think I linked to it on my contact page. If not, I'll try to add, or if one of you could go find this and add it to the comments section, that would be awesome and a big help. If not, I'm happy to do it too. But you can check on all of the different features of your template before you implement it, and I would highly suggest doing that because not every template allows you to add a thumbnail image, but some of them do. So if yours does, you can add that thumbnail image there, and that way in any blog excerpt, so if you don't want, for example, for the Ellen Company blog, I don't know my own URL, there we go. For the Ellen Company blog, I have a blog excerpt, some text, and then you click to read more. I prefer this because it allows people to see all of my most recent posts. I try to shoot for longer posts. I actually wrote about that today. And so this keeps people from having to scroll forever before seeing which post comes up next, and they can click read more. But that's just personal preference. So that's why you might want a thumbnail image, is to save some space, and that's where you would add it. Blog post URL, if you don't add anything here, it'll automatically populate with the name of your post and the date, and it'll be a really long URL. That's not always easy for sharing. So a lot of times I recommend coming in here. So for today's post, I made it blog post length, or I could have just made it post length. Usually try to shoot between just 2 and 3 words that summarize the post, just to make the blog URL shorter. You can also change the author. Jake is part of my site as well, although we never post articles under his name. I think we may have in the past. But anyway, if you have multiple authors on your site, you can add them here and just choose which author it is. Source URLs, I never use those because all of my content is original to Ellen Company, but for some reason, if you were sharing content that wasn't original to you, which you really have to check on because you can't steal other people's content and post it without their permission. But if you did, you could provide the source URL there. Excerpt, this is where that blog excerpt text comes in right here. If you go and add it in, your excerpt is automatically going to appear. There's no button on Squarespace where you check and say, yes, I want excerpts to appear. They'll only appear on the post that you go in and add the excerpt text. So that's helpful to know as well. And some posts you can mark as featured posts, and it's kind of like a special tag or category. You might want to feature some posts in your sidebar, and you can add a summary block and sort by featured posts. So you mark it as a featured post, and I'll show you that in a second by clicking this here. Something that's really helpful, especially if you're a service-based business and location is really important to you for SEO, you might consider, so if you're blogging a wedding, like I just mentioned a moment ago, you might add the location of the wedding here. And this will help with SEO. It doesn't show up in the blog post. I haven't found that it does. It might at the very top of the blog post in like where it would say categories and tags, but it would be really helpful for your SEO. For me, it doesn't really matter that I'm in Charlotte to blog. I work with clients all over the world, so I don't really bother with this, but you might want to. And social, you can turn these on if you want to share your post on Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, whatever ones you have connected as soon as your blog post publishes. However, it's really generic, and I usually like to schedule my social media posts and make them more personalized, so I never worry about that social button. You can save it down here if you want to. I don't really want this post to show up on my blog, so I'm just going to hit cancel and discard those changes. Something that I always do, though, before I publish my posts is I want to see what they look like before they go live. I want to see them actually in the space. And so a lot of times if I had saved that post as a draft here, it would show up here and it would say draft beside it. And then it's going to show you what it looks like here on the right side. And if I click this little arrow up here, I can scroll down and see what the post looks like. And I can see all the formatting. I can see what the headers look like, and links and all of that. So that's really helpful. Not only can I see that, but I can also hover over the post and click edit and edit it within this window. I'm not able to go in and publish it from this window. I have to click settings to do that. But this is just a really simple way that Squarespace has built in easy editing. You can edit before your post goes live as many times as you want, and you can even edit it after your post goes live in case you see a typo or you want to add something to your post. So that's really easy to do too. You can set up the blocks just like you would in the regular pop-up screen, but you can't publish from here. So if you wanted to add a category or a tag, change the URL, any of that, you'd have to come back here into settings and do that in this window. So I'm going to hit cancel. We didn't make any changes and we're good to go. So that's how you add blog posts. It's just really simple. Another thing I meant to mention, and this goes along with SEO as well. I'm going to come back up here and edit this post, especially within the images. If I double click on this, I can show you this pop-up window. I have my image here and I have a file name. I try to remember to name every single image in my blog posts for two reasons. Number one, SEO, it's helpful if you name your images. And so I always do the blog post title here and then dash Ellen Company. So Ellen Company over and over on every single blog post image. So I do it not only for SEO and keywords, but I also do it because if anybody pins my image from this window, this is what's going to show up in the pin description automatically. A lot of times people don't bother with the pin description. So it helps me kind of get to choose. And a lot of times I try to be mindful about what I'm naming my blog post so that keywords automatically appear. I think that's just good practice in general to give your readers a good idea of what your post is about before they click on it. So you can add that in the file name there. If you wanted to use a click-through URL, you can do that as well. But always try to name your files or name your images. So that's that. So we've talked about adding a blog page, creating a blog post, previewing and editing before you publish. And now we're going to talk about a sidebar. So like I said, not every template includes a blog sidebar. However, mine does. And a lot of them do, but that's something to definitely look at. You can easily edit your blog post sidebar by coming in here and clicking edit when you hover over. So I'm going to click edit. And this is set up just like a blog post. So it's set up by blocks. So this is an image block. This is a text block, and I just hyperlinked that text there. These are social media blocks. Search bar is its own block too. I made this a button. So it's just really simple. You can't change the colors of your buttons. You can actually do that, or you can't make each one a different color. Squarespace doesn't allow you to do that, but you can change the settings, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. This is a gallery. I simply took the images from my posts. They're all the same sizes. I can show you. I'll open it up here. So I just took the top 5 posts that people tend to gravitate toward on the Ellen Company site, added the images, and I came up here, and on each image I added a click-through URL. Really simple. I could have done the same thing probably with a summary block, but I didn't. But you could do that with the featured posts as well, and that would be helpful, and use the summary block. But that's how I did that. Just use the gallery. Same thing with the Ellechat. That's an image that I hyperlinked. Instagram and Twitter, if you go to add a new block, you can see a bunch of social blocks down here that you can pull from. So that's how I set that up. But just like I would a blog post or a page, that's how you can edit your sidebar. If your template says that you have a sidebar, but for some reason it's not appearing, it could be one of two issues. If you don't have any content in your sidebar already, it's not going to show up here. It's going to show up down here at the bottom before you add content. So that could be one reason. Another reason is because you may not have it activated in your design settings. So I would encourage you to go down here under Design and open up your style editor. And what you can do, the style editor changes depending on what page you're on. So you want to make sure that the style editor is open when you're actually on your blog in order for some of these settings to show up. So you're going to come down here and you can see that blog is up. I have a banner slideshow that I got rid of with some code. And so it says that there, but you don't see a banner right now. And is that it has different options too, depending on what your template is. This part is going to look different. The sidebar is what we're concerned about. So if I wanted to hide my blog sidebar, I could click this little button. My sidebar would disappear. Yours might be disabled right now. So you might have the hide blog sidebar already checked, and that's why your blog sidebar isn't appearing. So I'd highly suggest that you look into this, especially. So, and really quickly before I go into the questions, because I know that we're running behind on time and I really want to answer your questions. If not, maybe I'll have to do a follow-up for another Ellechat, come back and follow up on blogging with Squarespace. Or also what I'll try to do is go back and answer each comment individually as well. But I want to go over the summary block really quickly. So I'm going to go back out to Pages, and I'm going to go back to the blog, and I want to show you how you can use the summary block a couple different ways. One question that I get asked all the time, and I'm going to open up this most recent post again so you can see it, is how I'm able to add the featured posts. I meant to change that actually. It's supposed to say related posts. But what you do, and I'll just go ahead and delete this at the moment so you can see how I add it. This is simply a summary block. Summary blocks are probably my favorite block out of all of the blocks. I'm going to come in here and click that little teardrop. And under summary, I'm going to click Carousel. There's a bunch of different summary blocks. You can make it look like a grid, a list, a wall, like Pinterest. But I'm going to choose Carousel. And summary blocks just gather groups of content from your site. So you can pull from your blog, you can pull from events or products if you have a shop. I always pull from my blog. My reasoning is that if someone has made it through the entire post and they've made it down to the bottom, they might be interested in other related posts. And I want people to be able to browse around on my site for as long as possible and become accustomed with my content and hopefully come back and visit again. So I like to feature related posts at the bottom of each post to keep people clicking through my site. So after I've chosen which content I want to round up, I'm going to come over to layout. The header text I want to use, I'm just going to say related posts. You can see that that changes right there. As I scroll down, the aspect ratio is the format of your photos of those images. So I'm going to choose square just to keep it consistent. You might choose 3x2. Whatever you choose, I just recommend keeping it consistent across all of your posts. Usually I like 4 items per row. I like them to be a little bit smaller. Text size, I usually go small. Actually, I'm going to get rid of the text altogether because I have the text in the image. Text alignment, I usually do center. Metadata position, I don't really worry about that, but you could have it above the title or below the title if you wanted. For the display, number of items means the number of items that people are going to be able to scroll through, and the maximum is 30, so I'm just going to leave it at 30. This means that people can click the arrows and see 30 individual posts in this related posts section. I don't want to show the title. I don't want to show the excerpt. I just want to show that thumbnail. So now it got rid of all of that. The primary metadata, right now it's set on the day that it was posted. I don't really care about people seeing the date that it was posted, so I'm just going to say none. Went ahead and got rid of it for me. This in secondary metadata, same thing. Category filter. Now this is what I do want to worry about. So for related posts, this blog post was marked blogging for the category. So usually I try to pull from a similar category because chances are if the person reading this was interested in blogging, they were going to be interested in this post. They might be interested in other blog posts on blogging. So I'll start typing in the category. It goes ahead and pulls up that category. And now it's going to sort it by the most recent blog post on blogging. So it sorts it by that category. Remember that featured post option I showed you earlier? If you marked a post as featured, you can sort by featured posts if you want to down here. And I can click apply and I'm good to go. I can click save. And now at the bottom of this post, I have a related post section and I can scroll through this time and time again, up to 30 posts on blogging. So really, really simple and really easy. If I hover over this blog sidebar content, one other thing that you can use the summary block for that might be really helpful. Down here, if I wanted to feature posts instead of adding it as a gallery block, I can add a summary block carousel. I'm going to choose blog. Layout, I might do featured posts. Or maybe just featured since I don't want it to be 2 lines. You can see it changing over here. Square format, I might just want 1 item per row. People can click through it. Text size small. Text alignment center. And then I can go into the display and I can mark it as featured posts and I can change it all that way. So that's another way that you could use the summary block. I've also used the summary block for archives. So I actually have a separate page on my website for archives. You could do it as an unlinked page, and I actually have a blog post on this. I'll go ahead and I'll show you this and link to the archive since we're running low on time. But here's where you can find all of my Squarespace posts. The many uses of the summary block is one that you can look up, or oops, where did I go? How to set up blog archives in Squarespace. So I'll add both of those. I'll stop sharing and add both of these to our Crowdcast page in the comments. So there's that link to setting up archives in Squarespace. I hope that you find that helpful. All right. And yes, any of you, I see that I went through some of these things fast. So if you have, if you want to see this again, I post all of the replays on my Ellechat page. So you can watch this again and again and again. If you can't remember how I edited categories and tags or something like that, you can go back and rewatch this. And I hope it's helpful. Let's see, we have 25 questions. I'm going to do my best to answer as many as I can. It's going to be like a power round because I have to go in a couple minutes. But let's see. Looks like Amy I think that's how I'm saying it. I apologize if I botch names. I do the very best I can. All right. So she says, 2 questions on my mind. What are the benefits of blogging with Squarespace versus WordPress, and how does it compare in terms of SEO? So WordPress is a lot more versatile when it comes to blogging than Squarespace because of all of the different plugins. And there are a lot of SEO plugins for WordPress. I'm not a WordPress person. I tried WordPress and I was really overwhelmed by keeping up with all the plugins. I thought it was a hassle. But they have some plugins like Yoast SEO that you might find helpful in terms of SEO. However, WordPress, like I said, is really overwhelming. Squarespace is incredibly easy to use. And for me, I haven't had any trouble with SEO because I focus on long form content. So keywords are automatically popping up in my content. I try to provide value. And so I found that I get a lot of link backs, which increases my SEO too. I mentioned this in today's post, but Google is trying to match your search or someone's search with the best match, the best fit, the best content. And so there are a lot of ways that people try to trick the system and fit keywords into their site and do this and that. The only things that I've focused on are naming my images and trying to post really good content. And we see about 35% of our daily traffic from Google, and that's without really trying to optimize. So I'm not saying that SEO isn't worth putting your time into, but if you do it the right way, I feel like you're going to get better traffic and better results from it. That's just personally, but you do have a lot more options with WordPress, but it can get overwhelming very quickly. Ren says, I'm on Squarespace because I really like the simplicity of it. I'm having problems with formatting areas that don't seem to be customizable. However, I think I heard somewhere that just about everything on Squarespace can be changed to suit anybody's needs. I'm looking forward to finding out how to do this, whether it's presented in this chat or somewhere else. That's another thing. Squarespace isn't as customizable as WordPress. Sometimes that's a good thing though, because their themes are really beautiful and they're very consistent, which is great. But like I said, there are little tricks like that. I did a post on customizing Squarespace too that you might find helpful. But through code, you can still add code to Squarespace sites and change things. You can go in and customize all of your fonts and all of your colors and everything like that. You can add your own graphics. And like I said, if you know a coder, and I've been working with Chaitra from itspinkpot.com, and she's been so helpful for figuring out how to add blog excerpt images for templates that don't seem to allow them and workarounds like that. So that's been helpful. Maybe I'll bring Chaitra on to a Squarespace chat again. I've had her on before to talk about photography, but maybe I'll bring her on and she can help us discover some of these ways to customize Squarespace with code. But there are ways. If you have specific things, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll write a blog post on it. Nadia says, I'd love to know how you've been able to customize having a sidebar in your all posts blog page on Squarespace. I've been able to add it to individual posts, but not my all posts page. So what I think Nadia is referring to, and I'll share my screen with you really quickly. Let's go back here. So for my archive page, I think this is what she's referring to. If you click on any of these buttons up here, like business, you can see that there's a kind of a sidebar here. This is specific to my template. And this is really sad, guys. I always get confused with templates I use. I should know this off the top of my head. Let's see. Template I'm using, Hayden. Knew it wasn't Pacific. It's called Hayden. This is specific to my template. So for the Hayden template, if you have, and I'll show you here how I set up my archives. If I go into pages, you can see down here, here's where I have all my categories. Squarespace, branding, social media. I have them in a folder. So when you click on any of these pages in the folder, my template automatically adds these here to a sidebar. So that's particular to my theme. I love the Hayden template and I would highly recommend it. especially if you're looking to do something like this. But I didn't manually set this up. This was a happy surprise when I was working inside of my template. But great question. I hope that's helpful for you. All right, I'm going to answer 2 more, and then maybe I'll do a follow-up Ellechat on this because I'm getting some really great questions. All right. So Rachel says, I'll move my website to Squarespace soon. I love the layout of your site. Can you tell me the name of the theme that you're using if I could implement my shop with my graphic templates within this theme? It's Hayden. I needed to check on that. It is Hayden. And yes, you can have a shop on it. It does allow you to have a shop. I use that actually for my courses. So yes, you can use it. Yes, you can have a shop. I would highly recommend it. I love the Hayden template. All right, last one, guys. I'm sorry. Rachel says, how do I make my website more original? I feel like it looks like all the Squarespace websites, and I can't edit the CSS. For example, make each call to action a different color. You can edit the CSS. You just have to go in and add the code. You can't, unless you're in developer mode. And if you do know how to code, then you might want to go into developer mode. But once you go into developer mode, you can never go back. So that's something to keep in mind too. If you do know how to edit the CSS, though, that's an option, and you can add code to your site. To make it more original, I think a lot of that comes through how you're setting up those blocks and moving them side by side, changing the layout, adding custom graphics, and adding some photos. I think you can just get creative with it. One thing that you might find helpful, especially for those of you who are wondering how I worked around that image excerpt part of my site, and how I tried to make it more original, is the step-by-step redesign. I did a workshop on a Saturday. It's 2.5 hours. You have unlimited access to the replay. It's $49, but well, we've had awesome reviews from those who've joined in, and they've said they would pay it over and over again to learn some of these tricks. You can find this if you're interested under products on my website and go under online workshops, and you'll find the step-by-step redesign there, and it outlines all that you'll learn how to do there, but I'd highly recommend it. But again, moving those Squarespace blocks side by side, adding your images, going in and making tweaks in the style editor, and just really doing your research on templates before you get started, because there are some that look really similar, but if you get creative with it, you can definitely make it your own. Great question. Again, guys, I'm sorry that I have to jump out a few minutes early. I'll try to go back in and comment on these questions because you guys are asking some great questions. Maybe, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this in the comments, I can do a Squarespace Q&A and just spend a full hour on an Ellechat one week and just focus on all of your Squarespace questions. That might be helpful too. And if you have any other ideas for Elechats and anything else you'd like to see them on, please let me know. I'll either write a blog post on it, do an Ellechat, both. Next week, I'm going to be bringing Caitlin Batcher on. Batcher? That's terrible. I don't even know how to say her. Caitlin. She's an Instagram expert. And we're going to be talking about how to market in a non-salesy way on Instagram. So that's going to be really, really helpful. If you click on my little profile, if you see my face anywhere on the screen, I don't know where it shows up for you. If you click on it, you can be one of the first to register. It'll show you all the upcoming Elechats. We just have one right now, and you can click on it and go ahead and register and join me back here next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all for joining in today. I hope that I was able to answer enough of your questions and maybe even convince you to start blogging on Squarespace. Again, I'll have to do another Squarespace Ellechat soon. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. See you next time.